Hey everybody, welcome to the much anticipated 6.75 Changelog analysis. This is Luminous from DotaCommentaries.com, and joining me alongside here today is B-Balling from DotaCommentaries.com as well. B-Balling, how are you doing today?
I'm doing quite well. How about yourself? I know you've been a bit under the weather, but hopefully we'll get you back up to storm because big stuff's happening.
Yeah, this is a very, very long patch. Here's how we're going to break it down, and if you are interested in particular sections, feel free to jump around. We're going to start with the biggest metagame change that we think this patch log will kind of bring about in Dota 2. Secondly, we're going to talk about all those quote-unquote broken heroes, your Morphlings, your Naga, your Dark Seer, and see if this patch actually did anything to fix that broken hero. And finally, we're going to talk about something that individually jumped out at us, some of the heroes, some of the item changes that myself hold near and dear to my heart, and perhaps B-Balling holds to his heart as well.
If you had a heart, then...
If I had a heart, maybe I don't. But yeah, without further ado, let's talk about the metagame changes. What's the biggest one to you, B-Balling?
Oh, the biggest one, no doubt, is got to be the team AoE bounty increase. And I think this will change the game so much. I mean, whenever you're trying to gank a hero, you're going to get a lot more gold, even if you have a lot more people there. So it's just going to be really, really ridiculous how fast you can get gold by ganking. And I really think this will shift the metagame. Or not even shift the metagame, it'll just introduce a different style that teams weren't really considering before. And the more styles in Dota, the better.
Yeah, I think this actually reminds me very much so of what happened at 6.69, where it was a trialing era, and then IceFrog hit the nerf stick on the EXP, and now it's kind of bringing us back. But it's as exactly what B-Balling talked about. It is going to bring about a change in playstyle. I think the offensive trialing, it was kind of back in TI2, but now there's more incentive to be back, because if you're getting those 2 hero kills, if you're getting those 3 hero kills, you are rewarded much, much more. I think that's legit. I think we are going to see more aggressive, well, this particular one is going to bring about more aggression, but overall, this entire patch has a lot more, we want to see more action. I think we're going to see it with this patch coming out.
That's true, and not only will we see more trialings, I think we'll see more ganking, because before it was a little bit more passive, especially the Chinese, but keep in mind the Chinese can play multiple different styles. We saw towards the end of Dota 1's lifespan, even though the Chinese still play Dota 1 actively, the Chinese flipped to more of a hero-killing, chasing style, and I think this will bring back elements of that into Dota 2, especially with all the hero kill gold you're getting from mid lanes ganking or initiation. And we're going to see a lot more different heroes, more ganking heroes that we haven't seen in a while come back into Resurgence. And that's my honest opinion.
We'll get to those particular heroes much, much later on. So when I asked you about what you think the big metagame changes are, I'm surprised that you talked about the team EXP and Go. Don't get me wrong, that's big, but I was actually thinking you would talk about the 6-minute Aegis reclaim from Roshan. Now, right now, as it stands, is if you kill Roshan, you get the Aegis, and if you don't use it, Roshan will take it back as he respawns. Now, if you take it and don't use it for 6 minutes, it's gone. Roshan will still respawn in every 10-minute segments, but your Aegis is gone in 6 minutes. So that basically says, if you take the Aegis, great, you have the advantage, but you gotta fight within 6 minutes. So another big stab at, let's see more action, let's see more fights. You have the Aegis, you don't turtle till you get the next Aegis, that's exactly what we saw from the loser bracket finals of TI2, right?
Yeah, I think this change probably makes the most sense out of any change. I don't think it's the biggest, but it makes the most sense. Because before, when you had the Aegis, okay, you're up most of the time, unless you're the losing team and you get the Aegis for a last-minute desperation attempt. And either way, if you do get it, you're going to lose it within the next 3 minutes anyway, if you're on the losing end. If you're on the winning end, I mean, there's not really incentive for you to go in offensively and push and try to end the game. You can just wait around, get more map control, get more map control, get more farm, and just push again later when the Aegis respawns. So this was a much-needed change, and I'm really, really happy that this happened. And I mean, it seems simple, but I never would have thought of that.
It was really elegant, right? Remember back a couple months ago, NS, a pro player, wrote an article about the problem of Roshan, problem Aegis.
Yeah, Aegis is too broken.
Yeah, it was all these discussions of, how to fix it. This is a very, very elegant solution, and I'm very looking forward to see how exactly it will fix. I'm a big thumbs up on this change, right?
Oh, no question, no question. This change, it's just going to mean a lot more, and I mean, what else can you say? It's just going to mean for higher action games, and that's what we're looking for.
Alright, the next one's going to be pretty big as well. Maybe not for a lot of players, but for the support players out there, wards cost decrease from 200 to 150, And before support players jump for joy, here's more reason you should jump for joy. You're able to afford those wards, but more likely you're going to have enough gold to go buy your boots. You're going to have more gold to buy bracers, buy your urns, buy your drums, whatever support items you're buying. I think it's good. In the histories of 4, 5, 6 years of competitive Dota, we've seen that teams with more farm support generally comes out ahead in team fights. And I think it makes more for more flavorful games when teammates or supports are able to farm up those 4 staff or urns or whatever mech, whatever support item you're going for. And it might sound like a big leap to say that your wars cost 50 gold less to jump into straight mech and bracer and all that, very, very costly items. But it's a start, and I think we're going to see more, again, impactful games, more flavorful games when supports are getting more items.
I mean, when I first read about this change, I was a bit confused. I didn't really know if it was too necessary, but then you got to look at the big picture. Games are going to be faster, and with all the heroes being buffed most of the time, I mean, supports are starting to lose a bit of their relevance. They're going to lose a lot of their effectiveness early on, so this was necessary, especially with ganking become a higher priority, with all the heroes constantly being buffed in every patch. I mean, you have to buff the general support items in general, so it's useful. I don't know if it was completely necessary, but it will make for different games, hopefully more exciting games as well. Like you said, I'm also a huge fan of supports getting items. I personally cannot abide having 0 items as a support. That's why the only support I play is Dazzle. But yeah, this is definitely going to make an impact, but we'll see how big it will be. I'm not really convinced it'll make a gigantic impact in the professional scene. This 50 gold might just mean, alright, I'm just going to get more sentry wards now.
More warding action. Is it possible a indirect nerf to invisible heroes? We'll have to wait and see on that. But the last big metagame change, which both of us aren't too sure about because I think this one takes a little bit more time to kind of weigh and digest, is the Captain's Mode is now changing. The first pick ban phase, or first ban phase specifically, has now 2 bans instead of 3, and the second ban phase has 3 instead of 2. Your thoughts?
Well, just a little bit of tiny bit of background information. We tried to get people on the line, but I'm sure they're all trying to digest the information as rapidly as possible, and we want to get this video out as soon as possible. But since we're both kind of scrub, and we can't really say being captain of a professional team, I think this will make a pretty big difference, because there are going to be a lot more quote-unquote imbalanced heroes to work with. And also, I think this will mean that teams will have to start, instead of blanket banning, which is just sort of ban the normal heroes game after game and then leaving you, okay, you can get Invoker and then we'll take Lone Druid, Morphling, or whatever, or Lone Druid and Nature's Prophet. They're going to have to ban more specifically oriented towards teams now. And I think that's good, but I'm not too it's going to mean a lot more. I don't know. It's going to be pretty interesting to see how this shapes out.
I think also it gives captains and teams incentive to learn how to play against certain heroes. Like you said, blanket banning is no longer a thing, right? Remember back in TI2, Navi says, all right, we can't ban Naga every game. We'll give you the Naga and we'll beat the Naga. I think I want to say it's an incentive to do something like that, or it forces you to do something like that, because you can't be like, oh, I got 3 bans, I don't want to play this hero, I'll just ban it, because with 2 bans in the first phase, people are going to get what they want one way or another. So I personally like it quite a bit.
Yeah, and also means that you can get more imbalanced heroes, but also we might see more similar lineups just because there's so many really powerful heroes left in the pool, and we're going to see more situational counters, I suppose. Maybe, I'm not really too sure how this will honestly shape up, but I'm looking forward to it. Captain's Mode, I think, needed to change, and I think this is a good first step.
All right, so that's kind of the big metagame shift. Just on this part alone, what do you rate the patch from 1 to 10, 10 being the best? Enough metagame shift?
It's so difficult to say because it's so very new. I think this is probably an 8, just because I think we're going to see a lot more ganking, and I'm looking forward to a lot more ganking, especially with seeing sort of heavy push transition into heavy farm, into now hopefully we're going to see a mixture and a melding of all 3 styles come together, and that's really what I'm looking forward to. So I think this is probably at least an 8, maybe as time goes on, once I see more Captain's Mode, maybe it'll even be a 10 out of 10.
Okay. I'm on 9. I'm on 9 because of the support. The ward's getting a little bit cheaper because I just want to see support getting more item. You're absolutely right. It could be just more sentry wards, but in a sense, you're getting more action in terms of warding, counter warding. There's more map control dominance. I'm all for that, so I'm 9, but both of us are looking very, very hopeful for this new patch, and we can't wait for it to be introduced in Dota 2 and really be introduced for competitively. But let's move on to our next section, which is going to be, are the previously broken hero now fixed? Any broken hero that you want to talk about specifically?
I think I want to talk about the hero who most people think is broken. I think is only broken because of a certain factor, and that is Naga Siren.
All right.
And I think overall her skills are fine. The only problem is that her cooldowns are too short, and that it's too easy to set up team fights with 60-second cooldown. It's too easy to sort of escape ganks with that. It's too easy to farm up with the low cooldown of Riptide. And the only thing, I don't think you really need to nerf her too hard. You just need to increase cooldowns. And I was a little bit disappointed, but then I just sort of thought about it a little bit more. The base damage nerf that she got, -12 to her base damage, is actually pretty important because she is a very powerful laning tanky carry, and she's melee. So with the sort of incoming, or the advent of more tri-lanes, it's going to be more difficult for her to approach the lane. I'd rather see a little bit of a sharper cooldown nerf, but other than that, I can't really say that she needs too big of changes, especially with her extremely low win percentage at TI2.
Yeah, I'm in the minority to believe that Naga is actually a little bit overhyped compared to teams are valuing him. That 12 damage nerf, you talked about it, his laning's gonna get a little bit weaker. Don't forget his illusions are gonna get a little bit weaker as well, because they do actually base on base damage from the main hero. So overall, Naga is getting a little bit nerf. Cast animation, I know a lot of people are not gonna just scoff off that 0.15 seconds. I don't want to kind of overhype this 1.5 but or 0.15, but it's 0.15 nerf on the casting animation. I'm not sure whether it's big enough to make a big justification. Song of Siren is going to be still a Song of Siren, and it's going to be annoying. You are going to boo about it. You know, what can you do? Is it a fix or is it not a fix? What do you think?
I'd rather see just a cooldown nerf to Song of Siren rather than this, but I mean, it'll work for now. And I think as games sort of become quicker, as she can actually be ganked now because of the ganking increases, I think she'll start to become an issue that's solved. But once you get to the late game, she'll still be as annoying as ever.
Okay, so it's kind of like a meh, not really soft,
yeah,
but not really a problem in the first place, all right? I think that's what we're kind of getting at.
Yeah, I mean, just the cooldowns. That's it.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. All right, the second hero I think I'm sure on everybody's mind is Morphling. Now, Morphling, there is a lot of like kind of legit change onto the hero himself, but there's also a lot of item changes, and I think we kind of have to discuss both. So let's talk about Morphling in terms of his actual nerfs to his hero. Anything that jumps out to you particularly?
Well, I mean, I think it's got to be that Morph mana cost increase, because you got to cast Morph so much, and especially in the early game when Morph is at his most weak stage, but he's still insanely survivable. That mana does make a difference. And also the base damage decreased by 6. Of course you can morph it around, but that means you're just going to lose a little bit more HP in the laning phase if you try to overcome that damage increase. So that Morph mana cost is pretty big. And also, in conjunction with some of the item nerfs, the waveform no longer allows you to start casting or attacking before it's completed. That makes a difference.
Yep, you could use to morph and use your Ethereal Blade in the meantime. Waveform KS gets a little bit more difficult because the AoE has decreased. That's all the small things. Let's look at the main items he's getting, right? Ethereal Blade, it now got a little bit more expensive on the mana cost. It used to be 50 in terms of mana cost, now it's 150. Manta Style got a little bit more expensive overall. It's kind of small nerfs all over the place, but I think as a complete package, it has hit Morphling pretty hard. And I think it's a good enough fix. That's where I stand on this.
I think it's a good enough fix as well. I think in the other patches we saw, all right, we take the Morph attribute bonus away, and then Morph saw no play, and then we reintroduce it, and then, you know, Morph sees insane amount of play. I think all these tiny little fixes that make a lot of sense to me should help to fix the Morphling problem.
All right, next hero on the list is a Lycanthrope, and Lycan got hit really, really hard in this patch. I think the big thing, at least that jumps out to me, I have not tested yet, but it seems like you're going to have a really, really tough time jungling from now on. Let's look at the level 1 HP on the Wolves. From 400 drop down to 200. The mana cost is up by 20. 20 might not seem like a lot, but when you're level 1, level 2, and you're trying to eke out that extra 10, 15 mana to summon your Wolves, now you're going to have to wait for a long time. is it safe to say that jungle Lycan is no longer absolutely viable? Like, now you have to work for it?
Oh, it's viable, but it's by no means the sort of the go-to way to go. Because, you know, there have been tests done and you can still jungle with him, but the problem is that since wards are cheaper, you're going to be able to get more wards, you can counteract them, and since the wolves can't tank, they still do the same damage, you're going to be taking so much more damage on your hero. And if you take so much more damage on your hero, that means supports can come in, literally two-shot you with auto attacks or nukes, and really bring you down. So jungling, it's viable in certain strategies, but it's by no means the default go-to thing now, and this is... I'm a little bit hesitant to say if this was all completely necessary, but Lycanthrope was the most banned hero in TI2. He was probably one of the most successful heroes, and he's been powerful for a long time, so I think he had it coming to him.
And I think the next question that's kind of follow-up to this is, how will Lycanthrope fare in lane? And, you know, the Wolves now get some magical resistance. I'm not sure how much that matters. Historically, when he goes in a lane, he loses those lanes and he has a hard time struggling the game. Again, we're moving towards more of an aggressive patch, seeming with the wards decreasing cost. You know, teams are more likely to run a tri-lane. It seems like Lycan is going to have a tougher time in the laning stage as well. So, if he goes into lane, if I'm guessing. So, I imagine Lycan will still see play, but not in the high number or high relevancy that he enjoyed in the last year or so.
Yeah, he's still a high reward hero. He's just become a lot higher risk as well.
Sure,
so you
enough.
have to gamble that. So high risk, high reward. But with faster games, I mean, Lycanthrope is still one of the best timing carries in the game. So he still has a place in Dota 2.
All right, fair enough. Let's move on to the next hero, Dark Seer. Still the best long lane hero. Has the patch changed that? What has the patch changed really that caught your eyes?
Well, it's got to be just the overall nerfs to vacuum. I mean, you can no longer pull invulnerable units, so no more cheesy Naga Dark Seer setups.
Well, before you say that, remember,
well, you can still do it, but
you can still do it.
It takes a lot. It actually takes skill now. I think it's also the cooldown and the AoE. Just all these small nerfs to vacuum. It helps, but it doesn't really change Dark Seer's position in the overall state of the game. You can still suck him in for long, you know, giant AoE teamfight capabilities with a bunch of different heroes. Dark Seer is still going to see so much play, and it's really difficult to sort of nerf Dark Seer to balance Dark Seer because
without breaking him.
Yeah, he's such a very utility dependent hero that it's going to be hard to balance him.
Yeah, I think this patch mostly for Dark Seer is to take the grief out. Remember the old the wall combo with Acceptor? You just put the wall and everybody runs through and you push towers with it. That was a grief. They took it out. Same thing with this. Again, it takes a little bit more skill so you don't feel as bad, I guess, losing to that combo. But at the end of the day, Dark Seer is still de facto the best long lane hero. I don't think anything in this patch has changed that. So for the most part, he is still going to be the forefront of the metagame. He's still going to be winning team fights. He's still going to be a great ganger, anti-ganger. He gives you a lot, and I think that remains to be changed. So whether this patch fixed him, was he ever broken in a sense? Broken as in, like, my god, he's just impossible.
It never really seemed to me like that, and I think especially with more aggressive strategies coming into play and Dark Seer being a very sort of defensive hero, I think some of it will get fixed a little bit. He's still ridiculously hard to gank. Stuff like that is very important in the long scheme of things. He's pretty ridiculous, but only because of Vacuum. If you take away Vacuum, he's not really that ridiculous. And Vacuum's got a lot of tweaks, so I think he's still going to be a blanket ban, but I don't think...
Well, we can't do blanket bans anymore, so...
Yeah, he'll be one of the only blanket bans.
Okay, fair enough. And we'll talk... There's more blanket bans that we might have to address later on. But let's move on to the next quote-unquote OP, very powerful hero, Chen, the Holy Knight.
Yeah, I mean... Holy Persuasion no longer sends allies home, and Test of Faith now does. I mean,
that's the way it should be, right?
Yeah, they fixed it. I mean, what else can you say? You actually have to make a decision in team fights.
You're right. You got to make that decision. Do we blow the Test of Faith, or if we use it in the beginning team fight, we can't send teammates home? So it's at least it makes it a little bit more difficult. Still a very powerful hero.
Yeah, but you can't really, again, it's so tricky to balance these heroes because Chen is all about the early game, and if you sort of go to the late game with Chen, then he's pretty much not very good.
Right.
So if you nerf his early game too hard, then he's going to be not very good as a whole.
Yeah,
So this is necessary.
I don't think the hero again is broken, but you know it's a reasonable change, and I'm glad they did that. Next hero on the list is Rubick. Again, nothing too big of a change. Fable bouncing decrease. I'm glad to see that because that's very very annoying. And why don't you talk about that as I get the phone?
Well, as I sort of wait for Loomis to come back, this is the hero I'm most questionable about because I was hoping for more nerfs on Rubick, just because Rubick, if you look at the statistics, most successful hero in the amount of games that it was played in the TI2 series, most versatile hero in the game, ridiculous ultimate, can make teamfights obsolete, Ravage getting a slight nerf as well, makes it even easier to steal certain ultimates. I was hoping for more of a cast range decrease on spell steal or something like that, or maybe a cooldown. I'm not really too sure how to sort of fix Rubick, but I'm a little bit disappointed in this nerf.
I don't know. I don't. It's very similar to Chen, very similar to some of the heroes we talked about. You can't really fix him without breaking him, and then changing his ultimate might be doing that. So I personally don't think, or I'm not sure whether he was broken in a sense, but a lot of people would disagree.
Oh, he's broken. He is broken.
He's really good. Yeah, I'm not a balancing machine. We'll let that be left to Ice Frog. He's the master behind this, but I'm not sure if it's enough. But it's a start. It's a start. So we'll see what the upcoming patches will have for us.
Yeah, he's gonna be the other blanket ban with Dark Seer, I think, and that's gonna be it. I think.
Well, we'll see. And the last hero on our list today, for the quote unquote OP hero and needed to be fixed, the Nature's Prophet, Furion.
I think it sort of does the trick because games are becoming more aggressive, and Nature's Prophet, he definitely benefits from that, becoming one of the best gankers in the game, having a global teleport. But we saw in TI2, Nature's Prophet does take a while to get going, and if you sort of end the game, if you gank him a lot, then he becomes sort of a lot less difficult to deal with, and nerfing him by a slight amount, I think it was necessary. The only thing I might have done instead of these things is give slightly cooldown nerf on teleport, but I mean, this seems to be a good solution for now. Gonna make his Treant less tanky, give him a slight move speed decrease, slight move speed decrease, but overall he still benefits from the patches, overall aggressive swing because of the ganking changes. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think Nature's Prophet is going to be the hero to look out for.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a nerf, but I think Prophet actually got a gank. But in terms of playstyle change, though, that's a big thing about Prophet. He's so versatile as a hero. If you want him to go late game, he can. But if you need him to, for example, in this game, to go very, very aggressive and earn gold from that, yeah, well, he could do that. Teleport in and get those ganks going. So I think that's pretty much it for what we got on the list. I think the only hero we might actually talk about is a Syllabear change. You can't summon the bear anymore. I'm not sure if that change was, actually necessary, but the bear moves so quickly that he runs away from most of the gank anyways. Any thoughts on that particular small line?
Well, you gotta just be better with your micro with the bear. You can't just split push blindly. But other than that, I mean, most Syllabear players are good enough to do that anyway, so it's not going to be a huge change, but you just got to keep a closer eye out on your furry companion.
All right, sounds good. All right, let's move on to the segment where we kind of talk about our favorite portions or least favorite portion of the changelog, more hero specific to talk about. Here's what I wanted to discuss, and I think you get hot and heavy when talking about this hero's ultimate. Treant Protector, or Roof Trailin, as he's called in Dota 2. Of course, the two big change here is the Overgrowth and Living Armor. We'll save the Living Armor for a bit because I personally think it's probably the most broken spell in the entire game now. But let's talk about Overgrowth. We had a huge disagreement with each other and whether that ultimate is actually good or not.
Well, to be fair, I said Tree as a whole got pretty ridiculous.
Okay, fair. Well,
but I still think his ultimate did get buffed, and you seem to think otherwise. But I think just the cooldown, 80 seconds, that's shorter than a Dream Coil, so you can be a bit more aggressive with it. You can sort of get in positions. You can use it for even solo to double kills, and especially with the ganking changes with more gank-heavy lineup, the shorter cooldown will make a difference. And with the long duration and the fact that it does go through BKB when it is activated, of course, if you are in it and then you activate BKB, you will escape. But the fact that it has such a short cooldown and it becomes such a long duration at level 3, it's pretty good, and I think it's a pretty strong ultimate. And has a pretty significant AoE as well, 625. That's bigger than 2 kinetic fields.
That there was a lot of pretty in there. I just want to point out number one. Number two, have we seen Tidehunter miss Ravages? We have. Tidehunter's Ravage at level 1 is 825 in terms of range, I believe. Treant Protector, all levels, 625. That's the only thing that's preventing me from jumping and saying that this ultimate is going to be very, very good. It's a good ultimate. Don't get me wrong. The cooldown is great, so you can use it multiple times. We talked about how Silent Siren is such an annoying spell because of the cooldown. We're going to see a little bit more of that. 4.5 second as a disable. That is one of the longest AoE stun in the entire game. That has something going for it, but 625 range. That's a hit or miss for me, and for me, that's missing it. So I'd love to be proven wrong. So I'm hoping to see how the pro teams will use Overgrowth. I think at the very least, it's something that you have to get a dagger upon, get a Shadow Blade, get whatever. You have to have some sort of setup. I don't think 625 you can actively rely upon it. There is Nature Skies as a built-in. There's an argument for that as well, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm not too convinced with Overgrowth as a broken thing, but I am convinced that Living Armor is the hella most broken spell in the entire game.
You and me both. This is so ridiculous. So ridiculous.
Let's paint a picture. Let's paint a picture. You are 1v1 on the mid lane, right? You're Invoker, he's, I don't know, Shadow Fiend, Batrider, whatever. Okay, suddenly you're trying to change hit. Suddenly he's gaining 4 HP regen per second. He's getting 20 damage block. And you trade hits. And trust me, there's a lot of trading hits in pro scenes. You're not going to win that fight in the long run. So, and Shadow Fiend was a very, very weak example, because Shadow Fiend's not, even a good solo mid. If you have comparable solo mids, you're losing that, because this has a global cast range. What was Icefrog thinking when he's making out this?
Yeah, I mean, if it has a global cast range, at least keep the day-night theme. But
sure, yeah.
Also, cooldown, 20 seconds.
And the last 20 seconds.
Yeah, alright, I'll go back, I'll regen up my mana. Oh wait, guess what? It's up again, and you're going to be just completely dominated in the lane. And hey, alright, we're defending our base. Alright, let's just give our base just more armor while we're glyphing, or more HP regen while we're glyphing up, and stuff like that. Give it some damage block, so when the glyph expires, it'll be back up to full strength, or something like that. It's pretty stupid. Especially at the global cast range. You could help a tower across the map and just farm another lane.
It just does so much, and you gotta keep in mind, in terms of the Dota 2, I guess, layout, the way that you cast it on your teammates is not even clicking the spell and then going over to the mid lane and click on the hero. You could click it right on top of the screen where there's, your line of hero icons right on top. You just click it right there. You don't even look. If you're on if your team on Skype or whatever, you say, I need armor, and you get armor right there. It's such a kind of a blowout in terms of exchange in the mid lane. Also, now, here's my question, and it doesn't really specify in the changelog. I have not tested in my 6.75 Dota 1 map, is that it says the spells when more than 6 damage instance is taken. Is that hero damage, or is that creep damage, or damage? Because, again, it really matters in the mid lane when there's creeps involved and you're taking a lot of hits. If there's creep damage involved and that breaks it, then it gets a little bit more in control, but it's still very, very broken.
I think it's got to be both. I'm also making an educated guess. I think Icefrog would have specified if it's just player damage, but it's still very good even if it is just creep damage. Or if it's both types of damage.
It's just absolutely insane. Again, I love to be proven wrong, but I imagine what we're gonna see here is Treant just supporting on the other side of the map, giving you just can't win solo mid anymore. You dueling mid now to against Treant teams. Like, that's just insane. And he doesn't have to put it mid, he could put it on somewhere else. I'm losing my voice talking about this. This is insane.
It's pretty ridiculous, and if you're doing dual mid, then your other lanes are going to be under a lot of pressure, especially with the ganking changes. So this is going to get fixed.
So that's what's getting me so bothered about it. Any hero from your camp that you think it's the next big thing?
Oh, it's got to be, my favorite, the Batrider, the man.
All right, so he's got about 1 billion buffs in this patch.
Yes, it's all very, very significant. The biggest thing about Batrider is that you sort of have to make a choice, and you have to get hit at a certain timing before you get your blink die or go very aggressive. Otherwise, you're not tanky enough. But now, guess what? You get 0.7 increase per level. You get a shorter cast animation time in Dota 2. In Dota 1, this isn't a really big difference, but in Dota 2, the cast animation seems slightly longer for Napalm, and now that's been decreased. Turn rate also improved. Is a lot of little things, and the fact that Batrider is such a strong mid hero, I think with the innate tankiness that he gets, I think he can beat pretty much any mid in the game besides like Queen of Pain Windrunner, who has trouble against. So I think we're going to see a lot more bat soul mids, and I hope to see a lot more bat soul mids because he's a very aggressive hero.
Yeah, this again goes back to 6.69, which if you guys weren't playing Dota 2 back then, well, Dota 2 wasn't out back then, but it's a long time, and Batrider was completely banned on that map. And again, we only have 2 bans right now. Do you use one of that against Batrider, who, in my opinion, actually is strong enough to garner that ban because he just wins lane lopsidedly by himself. And it's very, very scary to lose it against a Batrider because suddenly everybody is afraid of getting ganked by a Batrider Blink. He can solo wipe an entire team or do so much damage that it's just so difficult for the enemy team to come back upon. So Batrider is now making it back. Strangely to see him getting all these buff in Dota 1 because he's already a powerhouse in Dota 1. And now as those patches port over to Dota 2, we're both expecting him to see heavy amount of play.
Yeah, at the very least. I mean, with the mid lane becoming so important, unless he's against somebody like a Queen of Pain with Treant backup, then he should theoretically win every lane just by the amount of pressure that he can apply through sticky napalm. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. One thing quickly we have to kind of talk about as a side here is that Obsidian Destroyer got a buff in terms of his intelligence seal, and Obsidian Destroyer is one of the stronger counters to Bat because how easily he could take Bat's kind of laning ability away. So I mean, we might see a little bit more OD because of that. We might not. We'll have to guess. But let's talk about more heroes that interest us particularly. For me, it's Shadow Fiend. New Shadow Fiend as the build-up. Of course, some small changes here and there, but the big one for me is that you throw out a Requiem of Soul, a mini Requiem of Soul for half of your souls as you die. And the cool thing about this is you throw out no matter whether your Requiem of Soul is on cooldown or not. That's freaking huge. I mean, here's a scenario, and I know I'm painting a picture here, but it can definitely happen in the game. You run in, you do your stuff, you blink BKB ult, you fight, you die, and you ult again. That's a hell of a lot of magical damage in a single team fight. That's a lot of AoE slow. That's pretty insane. You're getting a lot of benefits, whether you get ganked and get killed. You're getting a lot of benefits, whether you use your ultimate or not. That's insane.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But does it really make a huge difference? Does it fix?
I don't know.
Does it help to amplify Shadow Fiend's strengths or fix his weaknesses? I mean, if they don't fix weaknesses, then it amplifies strengths that we're seeing in the patches these days. But it just seems to be more of a cool factor rather than anything too significant.
Yeah, it gives them that wow factor. I'm not sure if this is enough. I'm not sure if you get your ultimate at 6 now. Do you? I don't know.
I think you sort of have to, because, you know, if you're going to get ganked, you might as well go out with a bang.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I am venturing on the guess that you don't because your Necromastery is not that strong at that point yet, and you need a mana from raises.
Yeah, I don't play Shadow Fiend at all. So,
yeah, so
I mean,
I'm not a famed Shadow Fiend player myself, but it's cool. I'm glad to gonna be willing to try him out in pubs. To the dismay of my teammates, but you know, it's that's very relevant to me, and I think it's a very cool change. But back to you, any hero that you think is big?
Well, it's got to also be Alchemist. He received a lot of small buffs, and it's pretty interesting because, again, this doesn't really fix any of his weaknesses, but it does amplify his strength. And all these mini Acid Stray Goblin's Reed buffs and the base attack time being reduced even further, it means that he farms faster and that he's even more deadly in the late game. But the unstable concoction no longer showing the numbers over his head is pretty important. The AoE stun is, it's cute, I guess, but it really sort of requires setup, and of course if you're next to an ally, then they're going to get stunned as well if it explodes over your head. I think Alchemist in this certain lineup can be used now, just because he's such a ridiculous... He farms very fast now with the timing on his Goblin's Greed and his base attack time, and the fact that he's so difficult to bring down, becoming so very tanky in the late game. He will fit in certain lineups.
I think he's getting a little bit more utility in terms of his playstyle. I think Unstable Concoction is actually a legitimate thing. The way that people play them used to is, you know, Acid Spray, Goblin, Greed, Max, and just go, you know, full out farm mode. I think if you want to play a little bit more early game offensive, Unstable Concoction gives that to you. Whether teams is willing to do that, we'll have to wait and see. I still am not convinced that this is a hero, but you know, he had his time to shine way back when he was paying a ton. But we'll see if he's coming back. Another hero for me that I think, or another item for me, is the Ethereal Blade. As now we're gonna get griefed quite a bit. Ethereal Blade no longer takes agility; it takes your primary attributes, and it just shoots out big shotguns. So earlier I kind of mentioned it. The mana cost has increased from 50 to 150 on the Morphling discussion. But let's be honest here. As primary attributes, you could just go crazy with all those combos that you're thinking in your head. What are you thinking? What are you going to be shooting out with Ethereal Blade? I have Obsidian Destroyer in my head as you're stealing 10 ints, as you are accruing so much intelligence item, and you just go EB, bang, everything's dead, or one person's dead, but you know, everybody else is dead from the sheer terror that you'll be raining down upon them. Am I not right about this?
Oh, you are definitely right. EVOD, that would be a sight to see. Also, even though Dazzle doesn't have, he has very high intelligence growth, so you can theoretically do that. Of course, he's support, but also with the new buffs on PL, you could theoretically get it on PL as well. So there are a lot of different possibilities have been opened up. You could actually get it on Tiny, and it wouldn't be too awful.
Well,
so...
and okay, let me continue that awesome train of thoughts here. When Centaur comes in from freaking Dota 1, he gets greater fortitude that gives strength.
God.
Double edge, it's a 400 damage nuke, it's magical. It works. In this patch alone, Drow Rangers level 16 gives you plus 60 agility now. I'm saying you can Frost Arrow out of Ethereal form if you cast it manually. You can still attack. You can still use it as a finishing nuke. Silencer as a hero, because now Last Word gives him plus 2 ints, or he steals 2 ints now every time, so he's accruing on intelligence. Ethereal form plus global silence, he's invulnerable. You still can attack out of it because you can ghost walk, manual cast, glaive. When I saw this item and just thought of all the possibility, it's insane. It's blowing my mind. And yes, it's 5,400 gold or whatever amount it costs. It gives you an Eagle Song, and for Silencer that's shit, and for some other heroes it's like, for Centaur it's so shit. But hey, you're nuking them in the face for like 1 billion, right? Let's dream. It's like Santa was real here. Let's be honest here, guys.
This is just an awesome fix, and I can't really. I mean, I always said E-Blade's second best item in the game as a sort of a troll thing.
Now it really is.
Now it actually is the second best item in the game. Oh man, I'm looking forward to having fun with this item.
Yeah. But back to you, people. What you got for us on the other changelog portions?
Well, Spirit Breaker, he got a lot of different things.
Spirit Breaker, yeah.
Yeah. You okay? I know you're getting sick of the thought of facing a Spirit Breaker who can charge you across the map, and no one gives you a buff indicator saying, alright, he's charging me. So, unless you have wards all over the place, which, hey, I mean, 50 gold cheaper, you could have them. But also, Empowering Haste no longer increases the damage, but instead Greater Bash now deals damage based on the movement speed. So Spirit Breaker's sort of become a bit more random. He's become a bit more random number generated rather than becoming sort of consistently and steady. I mean, the fact that it works on magically immune targets now, it's definitely a help, but it's cool. And the fact that ganks are becoming stronger and that Charge Darkness no longer gives a buff indicator. But it really remains to be seen how this will affect Spirit Breaker. He's just going to become a very, very annoying in pubs, but we'll see how he affects the competitive scene. Probably not too hard. One
thing I have to say is that the best passive in the game now is even better, as instead of 12% maximum movement speed for your entire team, now it's 18%. You know? Perma drum charge pop on your whole team. That's pretty good, right? No?
All you have to do is stay within 900 AoE.
900 AoE, you know?
Just clump up and then you get Naga Siren, and then
you get hit by that 625 range overgrowth and be embarrassed, you know?
Hey, you still get 3 targets in that overgrowth. It's all good.
Alright, back to me. Lycan as the hero is getting a lot of buffs. So Lycan, he's got his mana rework, so it costs him a little bit more. But that level 1 Finger of Death now really hits like a truck. 600 damage. You're getting a kill. Impale, a couple of right hits. Hex, if you have the Mon throw in, probably not, because now it costs 170 on that finger.
Yeah, but was that ever really an issue? Whenever you use Finger of Death, you usually get the kill anyway.
You know, if they're smart, they would get like a bracer. But now, like, damn your bracer. I'll finger who I want to finger, bitch. That kind, you know, it's good. Of course, the other thing that's really important to talk about is Mana Drain. I know I'm trolling as to say max Mana Drain by 7. I'm definitely trolling, don't do that. But it's actually a very legitimate skill. You know, keep in mind all the other side property you could do. You could kill illusion instantly. There's many ways that you could use it. It's a good counter to things like Morphling, in a sense, draining their mana. It's getting buff every patch. And sooner or later, people start going to incorporate Mana Drain into this build. And I say, why not do it now? It's a very, very good skill.
Yeah, dude. When are the next Pubbing with Lumi or Pubtastic Adventure, Mana Drain, Omni Knight, Dual Lane against Anti-Mage? Or what was it? It was like...
It was against AM Omni. I don't know who you were, but...
Yeah.
We own those guys.
It was hilarious. Yeah. But, I mean, the fact that it's getting buffed every patch, it's because it needs to get buffed every patch, and it's still not a good spell, but it has its uses from time to time. Back to me. The next one I want to talk about is the NA. And I'm really, really looking forward to more NA usage because in the old school days of Dota 1, I think he was probably the most banned hero of all time, next to sort of Bristleback, Visage, and Spectre.
This is like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, because he was the best ganker in the game. And of course, players have gotten a lot better. He's not really as good anymore, but the fact that the biggest problem with him is that his laning sucks really, really hard. And base HP regen increased to 2.5. That's pretty significant. I mean, it will help quite a bit. Of course, the mana drain cost getting buffed a bit is not really that important, but what's really, really notable is the Spike Carapace reworked. Now, whenever you take damage from anybody for about 3 seconds, then everybody will get stunned for once each source. So it's pretty cool, and I'm really excited. I think NA is really, really helped by more of the overall engine changes rather than his base stats, so I'm looking forward to more NA usage. He's definitely could be a viable pickup with a more gank-centric metagame.
Yeah, just a side on the Spike Carapace rework. The thing that's important to point out here is that because there's so many random spells flying out all the times, you would activate your Spike Carapace and something random, like a Venomancer hits you with his Gale or something, and you just kind of waste that stun duration. Whereas now, for that short duration, so you still have to be very skill-intensive about the skill, you get to kind of, you know, rewind that Finger of Death or whatever and just send it right back to his face. So it's pretty good change. It makes it a little bit more skill-intensive. I'm still not convinced because NA's laning still sucks. The 2.5 helps, but he still needs a lot of help. Whether by teammates or by having a very, very favorable lane, he still needs that help. And also, I feel that the mana burn at level 1 now costing 130 mana instead of 90 also is a big knock against him because I think you max Impale and Spike Carapace, so having that 130 mana as a mana burn is a little bit more expensive. Maybe now with this new change, you do max mana burn instead. I'm not sure. But again, I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping that this hero will go right into the competitive scene because NA ganking games is just so fun to watch. You know,
But whenever you play against NA, you're just like, oh my god,
I hate it.
You know,
because
no matter how well I'm doing, I always have the threat of being killed.
Right, and that's what NA brings to the table. No matter how far ahead they are, you could still just kill them because he does have that killing potential. So it's a pretty cool hero. Alright, next on the list for me is Ancient Apparition. Now, Ancient Apparition before, if you guys watch any of my commentaries, or any commentary I co-casted with, is that Ancient Apparition has this spell called Chilling Touch, and before, it was the most useless skill in the game because, to be honest, people always use it wrong. Now, Chilling Touch actually works against creeps, and it gives you, what, 40 damage at level 1? Let me double check on that. It's actually legitimate. Do you actually skill in lane, is what I'm asking.
I think you should.
You should, right?
You don't have to, but you should. You only need like 1 point in Vortex for sight. You should scale it because it gives a heck of amount of damage.
Well, 50, 60, 70, 80 bonus damage on all levels. Sure, there's a minus 15 attack speed %, But hey, it's a plus 50. At the very least, if you can't harass the enemy heroes, you're hitting creeps. And now here's the thing, it's AoE, so you're giving yourself and your teammates, your carry, that damage. He's hitting creeps, so he's lasting on the tower like a pro boss. And you are harassing them for plus 50. This is legitimate. So, Ice Vortex be damned. Chilling Touch, legitimate skill. Thumbs up.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I think A might be the new support now. I mean, we still see him in Dota 1 in the Southeast Asian scene, but we're going to see a lot more of him in Dota 2, I think.
Yeah, the mana cost is it's a cooldown. It's 50 seconds at level 1, so I don't know. There's still issues with it. The mana cost is very, very high, but hey, it's giving a little bit more variety, which is always what we look forward to. But back to you, B-balling. Any other interesting heroes that jumped out to you?
I think I only have one or two more. I do want to talk about Clock a little bit, because he's always been one of my favorite heroes. I think we'll see a bit more of him, and by a bit more, I mean we'll see him in 1 or 2 games rather than 0. The fact that his skills still scale abysmally to the late game is really, really annoying. But power cogs not triggering, or it does still burn mana if somebody force staffs over it, and still burns HP, so at least it's not a free escape for force staff anymore. And the mana drain and the duration is now quite significant, 5-second duration, and the strength growth increase is still pretty good, but I think he's most overall helped by the fact that, hey, more ganking-centric engine in place for him, and he's still a very, very strong ganker.
I'm glad he got the buff, but I hate playing against Clock's power cogs. How many times you just walk in a cog and get bounced back, and you walk into it again and you get bounced back?
Oh my god.
It's 5 seconds. 5 seconds at level 1. That's too long. That's too damn long. But hey, again, he needs a buff. I'm not sure whether he's going to get picked because of that, but 5 seconds, that's insane. Keep in mind that cogs do actually go through magical immunity, so if they're BKB trying to channel something, you can just walk next to them and cog and push them out and cancel their channel. So there's a lot of uses to that spell aside from the mana burn and whatever else. So it's a very, very cool spell, and good to see them. He's getting some buff. I'm sad that Force Staff is getting nerfed. It's still, in my opinion, one of the best item in the game, second best item in the game after Magic Wand. But I predicted this 2.5 years ago in a commentary when I randomly said, oh, what? It doesn't push out Chronosphere anymore, and then it doesn't push out a Black Hole. What's next? Kinetic Field? And bam! It's all happening! It's a nightmare!
Good! Force Staff is too good, and now I'm glad
it's still
that's
good.
seeing nerfs.
It's still good. Let's not
it's
get
still good, but I'm glad that it's still getting nerfs.
Yeah, but and now it costs 2,400.
The only reason I do not like that item is because you like it so much.
Are you serious?
Yes.
But it's a good item. You get to help your teammate. You get to push your teammates into their fountain.
Yeah, I mean, you use that mostly on me.
The versatility is so much.
Usually when I play with you, most of the time, it's to push me into the fountain, which I think is why I'm having PTSD with Force Staff.
But it's still a very good
Thanks
item.
a lot, man. Thanks a lot.
Hey, that 200 extra gold cost, it makes it up because your wards are now 50 gold cheaper. So it's all good. It's all good. We're good.
Jakiro, I think he has a role in push strats. Ice Path getting some buffs. Deals damage to anybody who walks into it, so that's pretty cool.
Okay.
It's still shit small AoE, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Doom is now a jungler. You can do that now, I guess, because Devour Creep restriction is removed.
So you could dominate Ogre for the armor. You could dominate...
Yeah, Frost Armor and get Jungle and Scorch Earth.
Yeah, Dark Troll Warlord for Skeleton, whatever whatever fantasy, you could just eat it.
And PL getting even more strong buffs for the late game. Now he's still the strongest late game hero.
He's actually the highest single stats.
Oh, you want to... Yeah, you want to talk about Necrolyte, I thought.
Oh, yes. I totally forgot about Necrolyte. Necrolyte is actually legitimate now as a laner.
No, he is
You
not.
don't believe me?
Nope.
Well, again, this is all Perry craft, but say this as a spell to actually... I'm not sure if you want to prioritize it, but you could... When you last it like a Bowson lane, and pro players do, you're getting HP regeneration and mana regeneration for free, which leads to more pulses, which leads to more last hits and HP regeneration. Hey, it's all good.
I mean, well, I just noticed that it's mana regeneration rather than the constant mana, so now I'm a little bit more convinced, rather than, so you can use more pulses rather than just having that. So I'm a little bit more convinced now that I actually looked at it.
So after you read it, after you read the changelog, you think it's good now?
Yeah, well, it's not going to fix his problems, which is that he still has very bad projectile. He's still, like, slow, squishy. Well, squishy in the early game,
Right.
but he gets ridiculous tank late on. It doesn't really amplify his strengths either, so it's cool, but I don't really know how much it'll help him.
I think it really gives them, because a lot of times in the past for Necrolyte, you use a lot of items to kind of shore up that shortcoming. You get a lot of, HP items. Now you could kind of, well, you still get the HP items, but now you could focus on a little bit more on killing power if you want. I was making this discussion with Nebula today. Acceptor could be a legitimate thing because you have a lot of MP, you have a lot, you just want HP pool, you want mana pool, because Sadas as a very legitimate regeneration spell could just fill up everything else. You just get massive HP, massive mana, and get killing power, whether through Acceptor or other items. So I'm hoping maybe you get Ethereal Blade Acceptor and BAM! Just saying.
Calm down now. Calm down.
Just saying.
You got a little bit too excited there, but yeah, it's a possibility. But I'm not convinced.
Okay, we'll see. That's all I got. Of course, there's random like Juggernaut. Now you kill creeps, which actually is quite relevant for pubs because those Omni Slashes are never really that good. Oh, also some of the Dota 1 changes that we don't want to talk too much about because it's Dota 1 and not Dota 2. But it seems like Pit Lord's new atrophy aura, apathy aura, whatever that aura is called.
Atrophy.
How the fuck do you lane against that?
You
don't.
You cry.
Because if he maxed that by 7, and God forbids if Treant's giving him armor on the other side of the map, right? You just type GG.
Oh my god.
Right? Bristleback is getting a lot of buffs, so, it's all good. All good.
Yeah, and the 2 new heroes in Dota 1 are completely ridiculous and broken, so there's that as well.
Yes.
Per usual, they are completely broken.
Well, they're broken because we don't understand them, and then once we do understand them, like Xin, the freaking Fire Panda, they are still broken, but they get nerfed eventually. So if you're playing Dota 2, don't worry. I imagine they'll get fixed eventually, hopefully, before coming to Dota 2.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Gonna be from us for this 6.75 changelog. We talked about a lot of things. Big disclaimer, we are not prophets of this game. This is all our dairy crafting, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have any questions, any comments, anything that you disagree or wholeheartedly agree, put it in the comment section below. We'll be glad to read it and reply to them as well. And that's it for B-Balling. I am Luminous. We are signing off. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, GG.